AITA for leaving after my wife made her ex our daughter's father figure, then begged me to return? I'm Hunter, 47, and until 6 months ago, I was still the guy who kept extra pancake mix in the cabinet because my daughter, Kira, liked breakfast food at midnight. She was 17, old enough to roll her eyes at almost everything I said, but still young enough to wander into the kitchen wearing an oversized sweatshirt and ask if I could make chocolate chip pancakes without waking her mother. Brielle and I had been married for 17 years. That was long enough for me to recognize the sound of her keys before she opened the front door and the exact way she folded towels when she was angry. I knew when she was about to start an argument because she would clean the counter first. I knew when she had been crying because she used too much concealer under her eyes. I thought we were tired, maybe bruised in a few places, maybe overdue for counseling. I didn't know she had already started describing our marriage as a prison sentence to anyone willing to listen. The mediation room was smaller than I expected. There were 2 pitchers of water, paper cups, yellow legal pads, and a box of tissues placed in the center of the table, as if someone had already predicted how the morning would go. Through the wall, I could hear footsteps moving across the courthouse hallway and the occasional muffled announcement. My attorney, Meredith, was beside me, flipping through a copy of the proposed custody agreement. Brielle sat across from us. Nolan sat beside her. His hand was resting over hers. Kira sat on Brielle's other side with her arms folded so tightly that her hands disappeared under her elbows. She wouldn't look at me. I stared at Nolan for a moment, then at Brielle. He's here because he's part of my support system, she said. In our divorce mediation? Her mouth tightened. I'm not doing this with you. Nolan gave me the mild, patient smile of a man who had been practicing patience in a mirror. I'm not here to interfere, he said. I'm here to help keep things calm. Meredith leaned closer to me and said quietly, "Don't engage." I nodded, but my eyes stayed on Nolan. He had been Brielle's boyfriend before she met me. For years, he had been nothing more than a name that came up occasionally when she talked about her 20s. Then, about 9 months before our mediation, his name started appearing on her phone. At first, she called him an old friend. Then she called him someone who understood her. Then she started saying I was insecure whenever I asked normal questions, like why an old boyfriend was calling after 11 p.m. or why he had picked up our daughter from school without telling me. By the time we sat in that mediation room, he had apparently become part of her support system. The mediator began by explaining that our goal was to reach practical terms regarding property, support, communication, and Kira's schedule. The rules were simple. Use careful language, no accusations, no interruptions, and no attempts to turn the room into a courtroom. Brielle lasted about 12 minutes. I spent most of my adult life disappearing, she said. This marriage was a long mistake, and I'm done apologizing for wanting joy. I looked at her. 17 years had just become a long mistake. The years of school pickups, emergency room visits, family dinners, mortgage payments, flu seasons, burnt holiday turkeys, and midnight pancakes had been edited into one clean sentence. I could have argued. I could have reminded her that she was the one who refused counseling 3 times. I could have mentioned the hotel receipts Meredith had already advised me not to discuss unless they became legally relevant. I could have asked whether joy normally required deleting text messages. Instead, I took a drink of water. The mediator moved to Kira's residential preference. Because she was 17, her opinion carried weight. The final agreement would still be between the adults, but nobody in the room was going to force a teenager her age into a schedule she openly rejected. The mediator turned toward her. Kira, I understand this is uncomfortable. You do not have to criticize either parent. We only need to understand what arrangement you believe would be most stable. Kira finally looked up. Her eyes went to Brielle first. I want to stay mostly with Mom, she said. Things are calmer with her. I kept my face still. The mediator asked, would you like regular weekends with your father? Kira rubbed her thumb along the sleeve of her sweatshirt. I guess. Maybe. I don't want to be forced. Brielle placed a hand on her shoulder. Kira inhaled and continued. Mom should finally be happy. Nolan actually makes her feel alive. They feel like a real family. The room went silent. Nolan lowered his eyes as if he were humbled by the compliment. Brielle looked proud. Something in me split open, but it did so quietly. I asked Kira, is that really what you want, or is that what you were told to say? Her face hardened. It's what I want. Kira, you never listen. You just go quiet and expect everyone to know what you're thinking. Nolan actually talks to us. That part hurt because it contained enough truth to make the rest easier to believe. I had gone quiet too often in our marriage. I had treated calm as a virtue even when it was really avoidance. I worked hard, paid bills, showed up, fixed things, and assumed consistency spoke for itself. When Brielle wanted emotional conversations at midnight, I sometimes told her we should talk when we were less tired. When Kira slammed a door, I gave her space instead of knocking again. I wasn't perfect, but I had never stopped being her father. Brielle folded her hands on the table. Kira finally has a real man to look up to, she said. Meredith's pen stopped moving. The mediator closed her eyes for 1 second, then said, "That statement is not helpful." Nolan squeezed Brielle's hand. I looked at my daughter. She did not disagree. There are moments when anger gives you energy. This wasn't one of them. I felt strangely heavy, as if every sentence had added another wet blanket to my shoulders. Meredith asked for a brief pause. We stepped into the hallway. She handed me my legal pad. "You do not have to sign today," she said. "What changes if I don't?" We continue negotiating. We could request a more formal custody evaluation, though Kira's age makes forced time difficult. We can challenge some of the language, tighten communication requirements, preserve your holiday schedule, and make clear that major educational and medical decisions require notice. But we can't make her want to come with me. No. I looked through the narrow window in the mediation room door. Kira was staring at her phone. Nolan was saying something to Brielle that made her smile. I'm not fighting for a role they just told me I don't have. Meredith's expression sharpened. Then make sure your withdrawal is documented, not emotional. She revised several clauses before we went back inside. All communication regarding Kira would go through a parenting app. School events, counseling appointments, schedule requests, and financial issues had to be in writing. I retained access to school and medical information. I would pay exactly what the agreement required. Holidays were divided. Kira could choose additional visits, and neither parent was supposed to interfere. The terms were reasonable. The room was not. I signed. Brielle looked surprised that I didn't argue. Nolan looked almost disappointed. Kira stared at the signature as though she had expected me to make a scene, proving everything her mother had said. I capped the pen. I'll follow the agreement, I said. Brielle tilted her head. That's it. What were you expecting? I expected you to care. Meredith's hand touched my sleeve before I could respond. I stood up, collected my copy, and left. In the parking lot, I sat in my car without starting it. My hands were steady until I put the key in the ignition. Then they began to shake. I thought about Kira at 6, asleep against my chest during a thunderstorm. I thought about the science fair project we built from cardboard and duct tape, the one that collapsed 10 minutes before the judging. I thought about teaching her to drive and pretending not to grip the door handle when she turned too quickly. Then I heard Brielle's sentence again. A real man to look up to. I stayed in that parking lot until the courthouse emptied around me. The marriage had not fallen apart in one explosion. It happened through small edits. Brielle started laughing at her phone during dinner. When I asked what was funny, she would turn the screen face down and say, "Nothing you'd understand." She began taking longer walks after dark. Nolan's name appeared in notifications. When I asked if they were talking often, she said I was monitoring her. "You make everything feel like an interrogation," she told me one night. I asked why your old boyfriend is picking up our daughter without telling me. He was nearby. That isn't the point. You always need control. I need to know who has our 17-year-old in a car. Kira came into the kitchen halfway through the argument. At least he listens to Mom, she said. That has nothing to do with what I asked. It has everything to do with it. The words sounded too polished for her. Not because she wasn't intelligent, but because teenagers usually spoke in bursts. Kira had begun repeating complete emotional arguments. Phrases like, "Mom deserves to feel seen," and "You confuse providing with loving." Some of those criticisms were fair. That was what made Brielle's version so effective. She took the parts of me that needed work and stretched them until they became my entire character. My steadiness became coldness. My questions became control. My refusal to scream became proof I felt nothing. Nolan's attention became destiny. 2 months before Brielle filed for divorce, I found a restaurant receipt in the pocket of a coat She had asked me to take to the cleaners. Dinner for two, a bottle of wine, and a date that matched the night. She said she was helping a friend through a crisis. When I asked her about it, she didn't deny being with Nolan. She denied that the dinner meant anything. You went through my pockets? You handed me the coat. You're proving my point. What point? That I can't breathe around you. I remember standing there with the receipt in my hand, wondering how I had become the villain in a conversation about her secret dinner with an ex-boyfriend. I suggested counseling. She said she was done performing a marriage that had already ended emotionally. I suggested we at least protect Kira from the details. She said Kira deserved honesty. What she meant was that Kira deserved Brielle's version first. After mediation, I went home to a house that had become painfully organized. Brielle had already taken most of her things. Kira's room still held a half-packed overnight bag, 2 empty hangers, and a photograph from middle school stuck in the edge of her mirror. In the kitchen, the pancake mix sat unopened in the cabinet. My sister Faye came over that evening with coffee and a bag of food I didn't eat. She was 44, 3 years younger than me, and had never learned how to hide what she thought. She listened while I described the mediation. When I got to Brielle's comment about Nolan being a real man, Faye set her cup down so hard that coffee jumped over the rim. She said that in front of Kira? Kira agreed. Faye looked toward the refrigerator. Kira's school photo was still held there by a magnet shaped like a slice of pizza. You don't have to prove you're a father by letting them humiliate you, she said. She's still my kid. Then be her father. Don't be Brielle's cleanup crew. I don't know the difference anymore. The difference is whether it helps Kira or keeps Brielle comfortable. I stared at the unopened mail on the counter. What if Kira thinks I gave up? Then keep proof that you didn't. It sounded cold when she said it. A week later, Meredith said almost the same thing. Her office was plain, with 2 chairs, a printer, and no decorative signs about justice. She reviewed the signed agreement, then slid a list toward me. Use the parenting app. Pay support on schedule. Keep receipts. Do not negotiate guilt over the phone. If Brielle calls about money, ask her to put it in writing. That makes me sound hostile. It makes you hard to misquote. I don't want Kira to feel like I'm dealing with her through a legal system. Then send her normal messages. Invite her to dinner. Ask about school. Offer counseling. Keep being her father. And when Brielle answers for her, write it down. I gave her a tired look. Meredith shrugged. Rage feels powerful for 10 minutes. Documentation is useful for years. So that was what I did. I paid what the agreement required on the 1st of every month. I sent Kira a message every Sunday evening, never long enough to feel like pressure. How did the history exam go? I saw on the school calendar that the winter concert is Friday. I'll be there unless you want space. Either way, I'm proud of you. I'm making pancakes Saturday morning. Doors open. Sometimes she replied with one word. Fine. Okay. Busy. Most of the time, she didn't reply at all. I sent invitations through the app because Meredith wanted a record. I offered to attend a counseling appointment with her. I asked whether she wanted to spend part of Thanksgiving with me. I proposed a weekend to help her look at college options. Brielle read the messages. The app showed timestamps. She rarely answered. When she did, she usually said Kira wasn't interested. Then the phone calls began. The first was about a school fee outside our agreement. You can pay it directly, Brielle said. It's for your daughter. Send the invoice through the app. Why do you need an invoice? Because you asked for money. You used to trust me. You used to live with me. She went quiet. Then she said, so now you're punishing us? I'm following the agreement. Send anything about Kira through the app. The second call was about her car. Nolan was out of town, she said, and she needed me to take a look at a warning light. I'm not your mechanic, Brielle. You know what the light usually means. Take it to a shop. Kira needs the car. Then send me the shop estimate if it affects her transportation. You've become unbelievably cold. I almost laughed. For years, I had been cold because I fixed things instead of talking. Now I was cold because I refused to fix them. The third call came close to midnight. Kira had an argument with Brielle and locked herself in her room. You need to talk to her, Brielle said. I called her. She didn't answer. Try again. I did. She's upset because of you. How? She feels abandoned. My grip tightened around the phone. I invited her to dinner 3 times this month. She said you never confirmed. I confirmed through the app. Well, She didn't see it. You read it. That doesn't mean I manage her calendar. You told me she wasn't interested. Brielle exhaled sharply. This is exactly why she doesn't want to see you. Everything becomes evidence. I ended the call before I said something Meredith would later have to explain. The next morning, Kira texted me. Mom said you never confirmed dinner. I opened the parenting app. My message had been sent 9 days earlier. Brielle had read it within 4 minutes. Her reply, sent the next day, was still there. Kira has plans and doesn't want to reschedule. Please respect her decision. I took screenshots and emailed them to Meredith. Then I texted Kira directly. I confirmed through the app. I was told you had plans. I'm still available Sunday if you want. 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again, then disappeared. She never replied. A month later, I offered to attend a counseling session with Kira. Brielle had been telling relatives that Kira was struggling because I was emotionally absent, so I found a counselor approved under our insurance and proposed 3 appointment times. Brielle read the message. No answer. 2 weeks later, Kira wrote, "You don't get to act interested now." I stared at the screen for a long time. "I never stopped being interested," I replied. She answered almost immediately. "Then why didn't you confirm counseling?" I forwarded the original message. She didn't respond. That was the first moment I wondered whether Kira knew what I had actually been doing. The answer came in a school parking lot. I had attended a college planning night because my name was still on the school email list. I sat near the back and took notes even though Kira was across the room with Brielle and Nolan. Nolan wore a quarter-zip sweater and kept one hand on the back of Brielle's chair. Every time a counselor mentioned tuition, financial aid, or deadlines, he nodded as if he had personally invented higher education. After the event, I waited near my car until most families had left. Maeve approached me. She was Kira's friend, 18, quiet and observant. She glanced toward Brielle's car before speaking. "Mr. Hunter?" "Hunter is fine." She tucked her hands into her jacket pockets. "I probably shouldn't say anything. That usually means it matters." She gave a nervous half-smile. "Kira thinks you stopped trying." My chest tightened. Who told her that? Maeve looked toward the car again. Kira was standing near the passenger door while Nolan talked to Brielle. "She says her mom keeps asking why you don't call, and that you didn't want counseling." "I did call. I did ask about counseling." Maeve nodded slowly, as if that confirmed something. "She also thinks you didn't invite her for Thanksgiving." "I did." "I thought so." "Why?" "Because Kira said you always cared about holidays." She started to step away, then stopped. "And Nolan's nice, I guess. But sometimes it feels performed." Before I could ask what she meant, Brielle called Kira's name. Maeve walked off. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with cold coffee and went through 6 months of communication. The parenting app showed read timestamps. The counseling proposal had been opened by Brielle. The Thanksgiving request had been opened by Brielle. The college planning offer had been opened by Brielle. A school meeting message had been opened by Brielle. A birthday dinner invitation had been opened by Brielle. Her responses alternated between "Kira is busy," "Kira isn't ready," and "please stop pressuring her." I checked my personal email. There were replies from Brielle saying she would pass it along. I checked voicemail timestamps. I had called on Kira's birthday, on the first day of school, and after a minor car accident I learned about from the insurance portal. I had been trying. Brielle had not merely given Kira her opinion of me. She had controlled what Kira saw. I called Meredith the next morning. She didn't just lie about who I was, I said. She got between me and my own kid. Meredith listened without interrupting. "Send me the records," she said. "What can we do?" "That depends on your goal." "I want Kira to know the truth." "That is not the same as wanting to punish Brielle." "I know." "Do you?" I rubbed my forehead. "I don't want a public fight." "Good. Then don't start one. Keep communicating. Keep the messages clean. If this becomes a legal issue, we have evidence. If it becomes a family issue, you will have facts." For the next 2 months, I stayed consistent. I stopped answering emotional calls from Brielle. When she left a voicemail, I listened once, saved it, and replied in writing only if the subject involved Kira. I attended school events without demanding that Kira sit with me. I sent cards. I offered rides. I asked about applications. She remained distant. At a winter concert, she passed me in the lobby while standing between Brielle and Nolan. Her eyes flicked toward me, then away. Nolan gave me a small nod. Good to see you showing up, he said. I looked at him. I've been showing up. He smiled as though I had missed a joke. Brielle steered Kira away before I could say more. That night, I went home and threw out the expired pancake mix. 6 months after mediation, my doorbell rang a little after 8 o'clock on a Thursday evening. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, Brielle stood under the porch light holding a legal-size envelope. Her hair was pulled back carelessly, and the makeup under her eyes had smudged. Kira stood beside her, arms wrapped around herself. Nolan was parked near the curb. He did not get out of the car. For one irrational second, I thought someone had died. What happened? I asked. Brielle looked past me into the house. Can we come in? What happened? We need to talk. About what? Kira looked at the ground. Brielle lowered her voice. We need you to be Kira's father right now. The sentence landed harder than she intended. I kept one hand on the door. You don't get to replace me in public and keep me on call in private. Kira flinched. Brielle's face tightened. This is not the time to punish her. I asked what happened. She held up the envelope. There's a financial issue. With Kira? Indirectly. That isn't an answer. Nolan honked once from the car. Not a long horn. Just a short, impatient tap. Kira's shoulders moved toward her ears. I looked past them. Nolan was staring through the windshield. Why is he sitting out there? He thought it would be better if we spoke privately, Brielle said. Then he can go home. He brought us. You both have phones. Brielle closed her eyes. Hunter, please. I stepped onto the porch and pulled the door mostly closed behind me. Tell me the exact problem. She opened the envelope and removed several bank statements. Her hands were shaking. After the divorce, Brielle had received her share of our liquid assets. A portion of the money set aside for Kira's college costs was structured to require documentation for major changes, but Brielle had control over a related account for her immediate educational expenses. Nolan had presented what he called a temporary opportunity. He told Brielle the money would be moved only briefly. He said the return would cover upcoming tuition costs and restore what had been used before any payment deadline. He talked about timing, access, and an investor who needed funds quickly. The opportunity failed. Some of the money was gone, and other bills had piled up. A deposit deadline was approaching. How much? I asked. Brielle gave me a number. I stared at her. Kira looked up sharply. That much? She said. Brielle turned toward her. I told you it was complicated. You said there was a delay. There is. That's not a delay. Nolan honked again. I pointed toward the car. Tell him to stop. Brielle's voice cracked. He's stressed. So am I. She held out the statements. We can fix this if you transfer the shortfall and sign the authorization. Nolan has another payment coming in, but the timing. No. You haven't even looked at everything. I heard enough to know I'm not transferring money tonight. Kira's eyes filled. Dad, my deadline. I'm not ignoring your deadline. I'm refusing to solve this on a porch while the man who caused it waits in the driveway. Brielle stepped closer. Please don't involve attorneys. It will make everything worse. That sentence guarantees I'm involving my attorney. It was supposed to come back before anyone noticed. I looked at her. Before Kira noticed, you mean? She started crying then, but the tears did not change the numbers. What exactly did he tell you to use? I asked. It was temporary. What did he tell you? That you would come through if it really mattered. Kira's face went pale. He said that. Brielle looked down. I felt anger rise through me, hot and clean. Not because Nolan expected me to pay. I already knew what kind of man he was. Because Brielle had spent months telling our daughter I was cold, absent, and unworthy, while privately relying on the assumption that I would rescue them from the consequences. I kept my voice low. I will help my daughter understand her options. I will not pay your boyfriend's debt in cash and secrecy. This isn't his debt, Brielle said quickly. It's our situation. No, it became Kira's situation when you touched money connected to her future. Kira wiped her face with her sleeve. Did you know all of it? I asked her. She shook her head. Do you want to come inside and talk without your mother? Brielle immediately said, that's not appropriate. I looked at her. Kira is 17, and you came to my house asking me to act like her father. Nolan opened his car door. He didn't walk toward us. He just stood beside the car. Brielle glanced back at him. Kira saw it. I'll call you, she whispered to me. I nodded. Send every document through the parenting app. No missing pages. No summaries. Everything. Brielle's expression shifted from desperation to anger. You're enjoying this. No, I'm being careful. You always do this. You hide behind procedure. And you hide behind emotion. Send it in writing. I went inside and closed the door. Then I stood in the entryway until their car pulled away. My hands started shaking again. The next morning, I met Meredith. She spread the statements, the divorce agreement, my payment history, and Brielle's messages across her desk. They are trying to convert guilt into liability, she said. Don't let them. What about Kira's deadline? We can identify options that benefit Kira directly. We do not transfer unrestricted money to Brielle. We do not reimburse Nolan. We do not sign anything until we know what was moved and whether additional accounts are affected. I'm not letting Kira lose college over this. Support your daughter. Do not subsidize the lie. She drafted an email requiring complete statements, written explanations, and communication through counsel regarding the disputed funds. She also made clear that I had met every existing obligation. 2 hours after the email went out, Brielle called me 5 times. I did not answer. Her first voicemail was tearful. Hunter, Meredith is making this sound criminal. It was a mistake. Please call me before Nolan gets more upset. Her second was angry. You are humiliating me on purpose. Her third was quiet and panicked. Nolan says if this becomes legal, he can't be involved anymore. Please don't do this to Kira. I saved all 3. Then Kira called. I answered on the first ring. Dad, I'm here. Did you know Mom was moving the money? No. Did Nolan really tell her you'd pay it back? That's what she told me. There was a pause. He keeps saying you're making it bigger than it is. It is already big. He says lawyers only take money away from families. Lawyers also stop families from hiding where money went. She breathed unevenly. I don't know who to believe. You don't have to decide tonight. You hate him. I don't trust him. That's different. Do you hate Mom? No. It was true, though not in the way Kira probably understood. I no longer wanted Brielle back. I no longer wanted her approval. But 17 years did not turn into nothing just because she had rewritten them. Kira asked, Are you going to help me? I will help you with choices that are actually about you. What does that mean? It means I'll speak with the school. I'll review deadlines. I'll look at payment options. I will not write a check that covers Nolan's losses or allows your mother to keep this secret. She says you're punishing us. I'm not paying for silence. Kira did not answer. Before we hung up, I said, You can call me without asking permission. Her voice became smaller. I know. I wasn't sure she did. Brielle did what she always did when private pressure failed. She won a family. My Uncle Roy called 2 days later. He was 62 and had spent most of his life believing neutrality was the same thing as fairness. Your mother would hate seeing the family like this, he said. My mother would ask where Kira's money went. Roy sighed. Brielle says you're refusing to help because you're still bitter. I'm refusing to pay Nolan's loss. She says that's not what happened. Then ask her to show you the statements. This isn't really about paperwork. It became about paperwork when money disappeared. Roy was quiet. He told me he was hosting dinner on Sunday. Brielle would be there. Kira would be there. Nolan would be there. Faye had already agreed to come. Maybe people who love Kira can help everyone calm down, he said. I almost refused. Then I thought about every relative who had heard I stopped trying. Every person who had accepted Brielle's version because I remained quiet. Every message Kira never received. Fine, I said. Then everyone should hear the same facts. Before the dinner, Meredith prepared a legal envelope containing copies, not originals. Parenting app logs. Counseling invitations. Holiday proposals. Attorney emails confirming support payments. The relevant bank statements Brielle had provided. Her voicemails transcribed. Texts in which she asked me not to make the matter legal. There was also one message that changed the shape of the entire story. Brielle had accidentally forwarded part of an exchange with Nolan while sending financial documents to Meredith. Nolan had written, Hunter will cover it if Kira's future is on the line. He needs to look like the good father. Stop panicking. Brielle replied. He won't if he thinks it benefits you. Nolan wrote. Then make it about her. That always works. I read those lines 3 times. Meredith watched me. Do not use this to perform anger, she said. What should I use it for? Accuracy. Roy's dining room smelled like roasted chicken and coffee. Nobody ate much. Brielle sat beside Nolan. Kira sat on Brielle's other side, staring at her plate. Faye sat near me, arms folded. Roy's wife kept getting up to bring things nobody had requested. Roy cleared his throat. We're here because Kira's future matters more than old grievances. Agreed, I said. Brielle looked relieved for half a second. Then she began. She spoke about mistakes made under stress. She said she had trusted someone she loved. She said the money was not truly gone, only inaccessible. She said I was using technicalities to punish a child because I could not accept that our marriage had ended. I know Hunter is hurt, she said, but Kira should not pay for that hurt. Nolan placed his napkin beside his plate. I've tried to stay out of this, he said. Faye made a sound that might have been a laugh. Nolan ignored her. This is about maturity, he continued. People make financial decisions. Sometimes timing changes. A real father doesn't seize on a mistake to settle emotional scores. I looked at him. Careful. His eyebrows rose. You're about to ask me to clean up a role you begged to take. Brielle said, this hostility is exactly what I mean. I'm not being hostile. You came here with a legal envelope. You came here with a financial hole. Roy raised both hands. Let's keep this calm. Nolan leaned back in his chair. Hunter, this is about being a real father for once. The room went still. Kira closed her eyes. Faye turned toward me, watching carefully. I placed the envelope on the table. You all heard I abandoned my daughter, I said. So let's talk about the messages she never received. Brielle's face changed. Hunter, don't. I opened the envelope. This is the counseling invitation I sent in October. Brielle read it the same morning. Kira was told I never confirmed. I placed the printout in front of Kira. This is my Thanksgiving request. Brielle read it and told me Kira wasn't interested. Kira was told I never asked. Another page. This is the college planning offer. This is the school meeting. This is the birthday dinner. These are the calls and voicemails. These are the attorney emails confirming every support payment was made on time. Kira picked up the counseling page. Her hands trembled. Brielle said, you're taking things out of context. What context makes a read timestamp disappear? I was trying to give Kira space. You told her I stopped trying. I told her how it felt. You controlled what she saw, then used her reaction as proof. Roy looked at Brielle. Did you pass along the invitations? Brielle's eyes filled with tears. I was protecting her from disappointment. Kira looked up. Disappointment from what? Brielle reached for her hand. Kira pulled it away. I kept going. These are the statements showing money moved from an account connected to Kira's education. I'm not going to explain every number at this table. The important part is that it was moved after Nolan described a temporary opportunity. Nolan leaned forward. You have no idea how that arrangement worked. I know it didn't work. It's a liquidity issue. It's Kira's money. It was going to be replaced. By me. His jaw tightened. I removed the forwarded message and placed it in the center of the table. He didn't build a family, I said. He found a family account and called it commitment. Nolan reached for the page. Faye put her hand over it first. No, she said. You can read it from there. Kira read the exchange. Hunter will cover it if Kira's future is on the line. Then make it about her. That always works. Her face lost color. She turned toward Nolan. You said that. He lifted both hands. It was taken from a private conversation. That's not an answer. I was trying to reassure your mother. You told her to make it about me. Kira, adult finances are complicated. She looked at Brielle. You told me Dad didn't care. Did you lot? Brielle's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Kira's voice rose. Did you lot? I was trying to protect you. From him, or from what you did. Nolan cut in. This is becoming emotional. Faye stared at him. She's 17. Her mother used her college money, and her mother's boyfriend planned to guilt her father into replacing it. Emotional seems appropriate. Brielle began crying harder. You don't understand what I was going through, she said to Kira. I spent years feeling invisible. Kira pushed her chair back. So you made me hate him? I never made you do anything. You told me he stopped calling. He did pull away. I looked directly at Kira. I stopped answering your mother's personal calls. I never stopped contacting you. Kira looked down at the pages. I said all that stuff in mediation. I know. I said Nolan felt more like family. I remember. Her face crumpled. I wanted to cross the room and hold her. Every part of me that still remembered her as a little girl wanted to erase the moment. But love was not the same thing as pretending it hadn't happened. I never stopped being your father, I said. But I stopped being your mother's emergency exit. Brielle covered her face. Nolan stood. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here while private messages are weaponized. Sit down, Roy said. It was the first firm thing he had said all evening. Nolan looked at him. Roy nodded toward the page. Did you write it? Nolan took his car keys from the table. This family has always been dysfunctional. Faye said, interesting time to notice. Brielle grabbed his wrist. Don't leave. I'm not part of this. You made the investment. I introduced an opportunity. You made your own decision. Kira stared at him. You said you would help fix it. I said I would explore options. That's not what you said at home. Nolan pulled his arm free. He left before dessert. The front door closed, and for several seconds nobody spoke. Brielle looked around the table as if she expected someone to follow him or defend her. No one moved. Roy's wife quietly sat down. Roy looked at me. Hunter, we should have asked more questions before we judged you. I did not feel the satisfaction I had imagined. I felt tired. I should have spoken sooner, I said. But being quiet didn't make their version true. Kira stood. I'm not riding home with him. Brielle wiped her face. He's upset. So am I. Kira, please don't make decisions while you're emotional. Kira let out a sharp laugh. That's rich. Faye drove her home that night. Not to Brielle's house. To Maeve's family, where she asked to stay until she could think. I went home alone. The legal envelope sat on the passenger seat of my car. At a stoplight, I noticed my hands were steady. Over the next week, consequences arrived without me having to create them. Meredith's letter required all further communication about the disputed money to go through counsel. I arranged directly with the school to understand Kira's options. There were payment plans, a delayed deadline, and scholarship paperwork that still needed attention. The situation was serious, but it was not hopeless. I agreed to contribute additional money only under conditions that sent funds directly to approved educational expenses. Nothing went to Brielle. Nothing reimbursed Nolan. Nothing was transferred without documentation. Nolan moved out of Brielle's place less than 2 weeks after the dinner. He told her he needed distance from family conflict. According to Faye, he also stopped answering questions about the money. Brielle left me a voicemail saying she had been manipulated. I replied through the parenting app. Nolan's actions do not erase yours. Future communication should concern Kira or required divorce matters. She sent back 3 paragraphs about compassion, healing, and how people made bad choices when they felt unseen. I did not respond. Kira asked to meet me at a diner. We chose a booth near the back. She ordered fries and did not touch them. I put my phone face down on the table. For the first few minutes, she tore a paper napkin into narrow strips. Finally, she said, I don't know how to say this without sounding awful. Say it badly. She looked at me, surprised. I thought you gave up on me. No, I gave up on fighting people who were teaching you to hate me. Her eyes filled. I didn't hate you at first. I waited. I was mad at you, she continued. Mom cried all the time. She said you made her feel alone. Then Nolan showed up, and he was always cheerful. He asked me questions. He remembered things. He acted like everything was easy. He was auditioning. Maeve said something like that. I nodded. Kira looked down at the napkin. Mom would tell me you hadn't called, or that you canceled, or that you didn't want counseling. And every time I got mad, she would say she was sorry I had to learn what you were really like. Her voice broke. I wanted to protect her. I understand that. No, you don't. She shook her head. I said things because I wanted to hurt you. I'm sorry I said he felt more like family. I wanted to hurt you because I thought you hurt her. I looked out the window for a moment. Cars moved through the parking lot. A server refilled coffee at another table. Somewhere near the kitchen, a stack of dishes hit the floor and someone laughed. Ordinary life continued while my daughter apologized for helping erase me. I love you, I said. That never stopped. She covered her mouth. But trust doesn't come back because we're both sad. She nodded quickly. I know. Do you? I think so. You ignored me. You repeated things that were cruel. You chose a side in an adult relationship without asking questions. I know. And your mother lied to you. Both things can be true. She cried quietly. I pushed a clean napkin toward her. I'm not closing the door, I said. But we don't get to pretend nobody tried to lock me outside. What do? We start with counseling, not as punishment. We need someone who can help us talk without turning every conversation into a trial. Okay. You answer your own messages. Your mother does not manage our relationship. Okay. You tell me when you're angry instead of sending a sentence somebody else taught you. A weak smile appeared. Okay. And I work on my part too. She looked up. What part? I should have pushed harder before everything broke. I thought staying calm meant I was protecting you. Sometimes it meant I was absent in the room, even when I was physically there. You still didn't deserve what we did. No. The word surprised both of us. I had spent so much time trying to be fair that I had almost forgotten I was allowed to name harm plainly. Kira stared at her fries. Are you going to forgive Mom? I'm going to deal with her respectfully. That's not what I asked. No, I'm not going back. She nodded, and I saw relief mixed with sadness. What about the money? She asked. I'll show up for you. I won't lie for your mother. Your tuition payments will go directly where they belong. Anything Nolan lost is not my responsibility. She says she might have to sell things. That may be one of her consequences. Kira swallowed. I feel bad for her. You can love her without fixing everything for her. That sounds like something Aunt Faye said. It probably is. We stayed at the diner for almost 2 hours. She talked about college deadlines, Maeve, and how tense Brielle's house had become after Nolan left. She admitted she had known something felt wrong for weeks, but was afraid to say it. If I admitted Mom lied, she said, then I had to admit what I did to you. That's usually why people defend a bad story longer than they should. Before we left, she asked whether I still had pancake mix. I threw it out. Her face fell. It expired. Oh, I can buy more. She gave me the first real smile I had seen from her in months. Counseling did not fix us in one session. The first appointment was awkward. Kira cried. I got defensive. The counselor interrupted me twice when I started explaining instead of listening. The second appointment was worse. The third was useful. We made rules. No speaking through Brielle. No using silence as punishment. No pretending the mediation did not happen. Kira was allowed to be angry that I had emotionally withdrawn during the last years of the marriage. I was allowed to be angry that she used my vulnerabilities as weapons. She began coming over on Sunday afternoons. At first, she stayed for an hour. Then 2. One night, she texted near 11 o'clock. Do you still make pancakes this late? I looked at the new box in the cabinet. Doors open, I replied. She arrived 20 minutes later wearing the same oversized sweatshirt she had worn for years. We made pancakes in silence until she asked whether I thought Nolan had ever really loved Brielle. I think he loved being the man who rescued her, I said. Is that different? Yes. How? Rescue stories need someone to be the villain. Real love has to survive ordinary responsibility. She poured too much syrup onto her plate. Was Mom always like this? No. Then what happened? I don't know. Maybe she wanted a different life and couldn't admit wanting it without making ours sound terrible. Kira nodded slowly. I'm mad at her. You're allowed. I still love her. You're allowed to do that too. Brielle and I communicated only through the parenting app after that. Her messages became shorter once emotional arguments stopped producing money or attention. Nolan disappeared from Kira's life almost completely. He sent her one text saying he hoped she would understand that adults sometimes needed space from toxic dynamics. She blocked him. Brielle sold a few things, restructured her expenses, and dealt with the financial consequences. Some relatives stopped calling her. Others remained in contact, but no longer repeated her version of our marriage as fact. Roy apologized to me again at a family barbecue. I thought staying neutral was keeping peace, he said. You were neutral between a lie and the person it hurt. He nodded. I know that now. I did not make a speech. I handed him a plate and asked whether he wanted a burger. That was the strange part of getting the truth back. It did not feel like victory. It felt like having my own name returned after someone else had been using it. Kira did not move in with me full-time. I did not demand it. She spent more time at my house, less time talking about sides, and more time asking questions before deciding what happened. On the anniversary of our mediation, she sent me a message. "I'm sorry for who I was in that room." I replied, "Keep becoming someone different." She wrote back, "Working on it." So was I? I did not rescue Brielle. I did not cover Nolan's loss. I did not return to the marriage, the old arguments, or the version of fatherhood where love meant accepting any humiliation placed in front of me. I helped my daughter with her actual education costs. I attended counseling. I answered her calls. I kept records, boundaries, and my word. Brielle once said Nolan made her feel alive. In the end, he left the moment being alive required accountability. My daughter came looking for the father she helped erase. I opened the door, but I didn't hand her the old version of me. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.